Are we rolling? I think we're rolling. Let's get into it. So, I'm going to start a small little series about my thoughts on AI, and basically the first video that I want to start on to is this one here. The other two videos with regards to AI are going to be my thoughts on its implications with regards to a little bit more like the ethical, social side, how it affects our life, and one of those videos is actually going to be diving into a little bit the dangerous but also the goods that can come from AI within those parameters. In this video here, I really want to go much more into the workspace and its effects on the workspace. I want to talk about the positives and the negatives simultaneously. AI in the workspace. Let's get the, let's just start right away with the actual fact of the matter of what my opinion on this. I think it's great. I think AI in the workspace with regards to, video making and pretty much making videos I think it's amazing. I think it's an amazing tool. It's a great tool. I would correlate it to something like back in the day when we had certain tools that were added to 3D animation, all that stuff. And small background, for those of you that don't know, I've been working in 3D since 2000, about 2001, so it's 26 years that I've been doing 3D. I started out on a program called TrueSpace 4D, I think it was called TrueSpace 4D. I think it was fucking 100 years ago. I can barely remember it. And then 2004, 2005, I started using 3D Studio Max, and ever since then I've been working on a lot of different programs. I've been, obviously those are the 3D programs. I've been doing digital art. I've been doing a lot of stuff for over 15 years, well over 15 years now, possibly closer to like 16 years. I've been doing this professionally as well. I've worked for clients. I've done my own videos. I've done a whole bunch of stuff with regards to this, and now currently I am teaching it, and I teach architectural visualization, I teach game development, 3D in game development, modeling and rigging and animation and stuff like that, and I also teach it for animation for people that want to go into film with 3D. So I do have experience, I do know what I'm talking about, and there are some. Unfortunately, I'm the kind of person that doesn't just share whatever shit comes up to me and I just make. It has to actually be at a specific level for me to actually share it. And the only thing that I think that I have shared really, if I'm being honest with regards to my 3D, is something that I made 10 years ago with tools that were much more limited. Like for example, I used at the time 3D Studio Max to make the entire 3D scene, the animations, the character, the rigging, like everything, and all the rendering as well. The rendering alone took like about 1.5 months to do all the rendering, and it started reaching the point where I had to cut so much from my time. So after creating the character and the weapon and all that stuff, I ended up cutting off it. I cut like the setting to be much simpler, and then I also cut like some other scenes that I actually wanted. Like I had a spacecraft that was going onto a planet and stuff. Very simple stuff. It was like you could tell that it was just like a concept creation to a certain degree. I'm gonna link that video in the description below so you can check it out. It was from 10 years ago, not using the more advanced technologies or tools that I wasn't aware of at the time as well. I was kind of like for that period of time I was also away from 3D, general 3D work for about 4 or 5 years. And I was really diving into digital art, and I was doing some comic books, I was doing some comic book arts, I was doing some digital comic books, web comics and stuff like that. So there was a lot of art, that phase was much more, with regards to painting and stuff like that, digital painting. And then when I came back to it, I'd done that work, which, now there's so many more tools, better rigging tools, better animation tools, better rendering, obviously, photorealistic kind of like rendering to a whole different level with regards to PBRs, physically based render materials. And of course, I've added ZBrush into the pipeline, so the actual modeling itself has increased besides the actual tools that are also refined now. Like for example, whoever knows Smart Extrude. I'll give you that as an example. That's like something that didn't exist back in the day. Other things such as creating and using chamfers edits on actual edit polygons and stuff like that. All those weren't used, at that time. Another thing is creating texture maps now. You can actually throw it into 3D programs like Substance Painter, and just take the model and start painting on it. At that time, I actually did that whole thing with Adobe Premiere, just Adobe Premiere editing, Photoshop. So I created some of the effects and some flares and stuff like that in Photoshop, and I actually added them in Premiere as layers. That's how sad it is compared to the technology that we have now. All designed just in 3D Studio Max with more limited tools compared to now. No ZBrushing, nothing like that. And the actual textures for the character themselves were done in Photoshop. So I had like flat planes and I've done all the textures there. I'm gonna link it in the description below so you can check it out. So that's like the bare minimum of what it's not even a really great representation of the things that I could do, honestly, because now the technology has surpassed this quite a bit. And of course there are a lot of things that I don't share, like I said before, because I want to share things on a more complete format. Hopefully now with AI giving me the time to be able to work on this much more, I might be able to actually have more work slowly come out and be happy, like have results that I'm happy with sharing. Client work, of course, there's a lot of client work, but a lot of the client work, I'm happy with my work on it, but it's just random stuff. Some of that are behind NDAs, some of them are, it's random things that to a certain degree they are much better than that video in terms of showcase, for some of my work, but I can't use some of those, unfortunately. Anyway, for various reasons. Don't want to go into that because I'm going to veer off into a different direction with regards to the video, and I'm already wasting time talking about this, but I want to give a small little background as well with regards to my experience in the field. Basically, I switched gears and I went into making something like Mythic Draconis, which is my first video game that I've actually completed. Again, it's in the description below, and if you want to support me, go check it out. Fun little title. It's a retro themed side-scroller platformer game set in a dark fantasy world, pixel art, and so on and so forth. It was my first kind of game that I finished and completed all the way from the ground up, from scratch. Every single thing and every aspect in it was designed and created by me. Besides the music, I had a music composer that made the music and the soundtrack for it, for free, by the way, and thank you, bro. I even made the sound effects for that game. So I made everything pretty much in that game. I went in a direction of something that it was new to me. I had never done pixel art. I had never done a game like completely on my own. But there was a huge learning curve there as well, and it was a lot of fun, and it was something that I set out to do because I knew that I was like, you know what, I'm thinking too big when it comes to 3D. My direction is going into areas where I need budgets for this. I can't just do it on my own. So I chose and went in the direction of something that when it came to products, I could actually finish them and be able to release them. So the biggest issue here with regards to 3D now is the fact that we have limitations with regards to not only the technologies a lot of times, but also our budgets and our time. And mostly you need a lot of time to do a lot of things, and you also need a lot of budget to do a lot of things. This is the biggest advantage of AI right now. The amount of time that it cuts from all our work is extraordinarily tremendous. It's amazing. And the budget now for doing all this AI is hilariously small compared to what it would be like if you want to actually have an entire team working on these things. So as a tool, I think that it's amazing. And to go back to the initial comparison that I want to make, back in the day we were doing animations with keyframing, and then motion capture was added to the mix. And as soon as you see motion capture, it's a tool that actually makes your process so much faster but also better, and you're like, this is an amazing tool. And there were tools like this that were constantly coming over the years, and every one of those tools, it gets rid of the mundane things that you're doing when it comes to 3D, which is a lot of the technical stuff, which is taking focus away from the creativity and being able to, do the details of characters and do them as you want. Unless if you have, again, a big budget where one person is just focusing on the character creation, another person on just the rigging, another person on the animation. If you're doing it on your own, though, all those things are taking time away from your initial design. So the more technologies that are actually slowly being added, each and every one of them is a tool, and it really does help speed up the process. Eventually, even like motion capture, some people back in the day, very few were like, oh, it's just automated stuff. Now it's basically cheating, and keyframing is where it's at and how it's supposed to be done, and the same comments that you get for AI now. And it's like, that's not the case, because there's still a lot of work that goes into it. I got to make the model, I got to do the rigging for it, I got to make sure the skin envelopes and everything is working correctly, I got to make sure that the skeleton is working correctly, and then after you do motion capture, you also have to go in there and edit it with keyframing to make sure that all the movements are correct. There's a lot of work that goes into it. Not just the preparation of the model, but also after you do the motion capture, you still need to refine it and fix it up and get it to work properly, completely, and correctly. So the same thing happens with AI now. It's a huge tool that has been added to our arsenal, and it's not a click button and result. It doesn't happen like that. If you think that that's how it happens, well, then I want to see you show us the way of how you through just prompts, nothing else, just prompts, you're able to create an entire film. I want to see how you're actually be able to do that with consistency, character consistency, and all the scenes actually fitting in and sticking together properly. Just prompts, like not even using a reference, don't even get a screenshot of one shot and try to connect it and make it longer. No, just prompts. The fact that of the matter, the moment that you actually start getting specific shot frames and you're actually using them to extend certain scenes and whatnot, you're already starting to do some editing. Much less how it should be properly and how it is properly used with regards to getting actual good results. We have to have a lot of reference shots. You have to create some of your own assets. You have to feed those assets in there, and then there's a lot of work that goes into all that, and editing it and putting it together and directing it and all that stuff, and then finally bringing it over to post-production and finishing it up there. The audio, the cutting, the editing, all that stuff. Primarily the way that AI feels at this moment, I would say for this industry, for video and all that stuff, is kind of like directing. You practically are a director at this point. Just like a director would be like, you know what, I'm going to go location scouting. Okay, the equivalent in AI is, I'm not going to go location scouting, I'm going to tell it what locations I want, and it's going to generate those, and it's as if I'm location scouting there. A director is going to tell his art department, I want a soldier that's going to look like this, this, and this. Or maybe if he has some references, he'll be like, you know what, have this in mind as a core kind of direction with regards to like the styling, but make me something completely different from this. And then they get like 3, 4, 10 concept arts, and they're like, okay, from these, I like these 3 the best, make me a combination of these. Same thing with AI, you can actually get it to generate an echo of what exists in terms of different designs that are out there, and then you choose the best ones and you go with them. Creating characters, like specific characters, with faces and all that stuff. I gave a specific prompt for those of you that haven't noticed, and you're probably thinking, why is he talking about AI? Well, on my channel I have an AI video already uploaded, so I think it's pretty evident that I've been diving into AI a little bit. I've been diving into AI since 2nd of January of 2026. That's when I started diving into this to actually see what it's all about. And one of the biggest reasons was because I was a naysayer to a certain degree with regards to AI, but then I realized, well, try it out and see what happens. And the last month, possibly the last 3 weeks, is when I started getting into, like, if you look at that video that I uploaded, the first Star Wars video that I uploaded, it's a fan story about the one that's actually available, because I made the other ones not available. If you look at the date, 2 weeks before that is the other videos that I have posted, and I've done those in a day. So just so you can gauge around about the date of when I started working on video and AI, it's around about 3 weeks now. It's around about 3 weeks, so it's not that long. And from the moment that I actually got into it, what I thought was like that I'm directing, and that's why I'm making those correlations now. The secondary character that you actually see, the main character, is obviously based on my face, and grown up and aged, and beards and all that stuff. It's the the Jedi character. And then the second character, I made it myself with prompts. The prompts, I created a very specific description of what I want the character to be, and it got so close that, like, from the 70 faces that I looked through, they all were similar. It's as if I had created a similar character. So it's kind of like, at that point, casting the other correlation there. You even get your own casting in AI. Then you get all these elements and all these assets together. You have locations, you have all this stuff that you put together, and then you're directing it and you're telling it, get this character to go there, do this, do that, they say this, and it's practically like directing. Now here you have to feed it a little bit more of certain images and references and certain things that you have to do more technically to be able to control that that direction. But ultimately I would say that it's pretty much like directing. And because I'm not really that good at directing, that's the only thing I don't have much experience in, like specific camera angles or shots for characters, how they interact with each other. That's something that I don't have experience in, if I'm being honest. There's a lot there for me to learn and to really kind of unwrap. And hopefully, like, the more I involve myself in this whole direction, the better I will actually slowly become in how I'm actually making those videos. Also, technology itself is already advancing. Like, within a week, if you pay attention to the video at the beginning where the character is sitting on the rocks, and you look at the way the background is, like, the way it is, it looks quite fake compared to right after that where he stands up. It's like a different setting. Basically recreated the image, and the week before that I was trying with so many prompts to recreate it over and over again. That was the best that it was coming with, so it wasn't that realistic. And then the one right after that, like 1 week afterwards, I'd done nothing else. I just wanted to add some shots and edit it out a little bit and just add the continuation of it. And honestly, within a week, you saw the results of how the land looked in one shot and how it looked in the other shot, and you're like, holy shit, that's a completely, it's a huge gap in detail and quality with regard to the prompts. Now, creating a setting like that from scratch, it can do it with even better results. But when it's already with certain references, it was struggling a lot. And you see this the new video, it actually improved the quality by itself quite fast. So it's also technology that we are in the moment that it's still rising and it's getting better and faster and stronger as it goes. Prompts are getting tighter, consistencies are improving, facial consistencies. Lip sync is still not there 100% with what I'm using right now, but it is also getting better, obviously, over time. The thing is that was the closest correlation that I could give, with the difference here that there's a lot more work on my end as a 3D artist or an artist or whatever the case may be in your case as well, where I'm actually fitting in with a lot of references. So there was a lot of shots that I was creating with Photoshop, and I was putting different images for references, and I was doing different poses. In certain cases, certain scenarios, I would draw like a pose of what I wanted the character to be, what pose I want them to be. It's coming up on the next videos that I'm making. Like, for example, just so I can get you to understand, I have the characters now. Like, one of them is in his hovercraft, kind of like speedercraft thing, and the other guy is like on a speeder bike, and it wasn't computing to put the character on the speeder bike. And I made even a drawing on the speeder bike, like, as a stick figure, kind of not a stick figure, but like a very simple figure of where he's supposed to be sitting, and then it was able to use that as reference and put him on the image completely. I didn't use that though. As a result, I ended up regenerating in different ways. So there's a lot that goes into how you actually make all these shots work in the end, at the end of the day. So there's still a lot of work that goes into with these AI videos. And I was of the idea back in the day again, where it's like, it's just AI slop. But now that you see all these other videos that are coming out there, especially a lot of the Star Wars videos, they've been really, ramping up. Like, Disney almost created this hole with regards to our thirst for good Star Wars, that there's so many people that are making cool AI videos for Star Wars now. And I was like, these are pretty cool. I was enjoying it. I was enjoying the results. Like, one of them that really struck me, even in the fields, and then, was Luke Skywalker and Anakin, like in the world between worlds, whatever it is, where they're talking with each other, and Anakin is showing him certain events. That was really that was really beautiful. There's a lot that I've seen that are just mediocre as well, but they're still fun to watch. Some that are mediocre story-wise, but they're great visual-wise. Some of them are okay story-wise, but they're crap visual-wise. Some of them are just mediocre on both story and visuals. But there's a lot of different stuff out there, and a lot of different work. And once I did my toes into the pool and I was checking things out, I realized it's not that easy, and there's still a lot of work that goes into it. However, is it as much work as it would have been before? No, it's way faster. As a tool, and way cheaper. As a tool, I think that AI is magnificent with regards to how it can be used, and it's a huge time saver. But you need to know what you're doing. Now, for someone like me, I know what I'm doing. I do concept artwork, digital artwork, I do 3D modeling, rigging, animation. I've done all that stuff. So, composition, editing, all that stuff. I've even done sound editing. Last week I was working with Suno AI and figuring out soundtracks and music and all that stuff, and I reached the point where I was actually, from just figuring out the prompts and the generations, then I went to actually singing lullabies and getting those lullabies into actual music, and have those formulated into different songs with different prompts. To the last thing that I'm testing right now, I'm just kind of almost out of credits now, so I have a very limited amount until next month of how much I can test it. So on my next cycle, I'm ready for this. I already have that. I've already tested it out to a certain degree, where I sing a lullaby and I give it a very strict prompt to give me just that voice in a specific organ or a specific instrument. Possibly a little bit foreshadowing for some content that might come. It's an ancient Greek kind of theme, so it has like a harp, and I'm changing the voice into just a harp. That's it, an ancient Greek harp. The next level and evolution to that would be with my voice doing all the different instruments and then layering them together into a song. And then, like, it's as if you write a song, as if you're like a composer or someone that just writes the song on, with the notes and everything on the page. I create my song, and then I'm going to feed it back into the AI once it's all completely finished. So it's as if I have like a not that great team making my my song and all that stuff, which is me practically, my voice and how I actually do it. And then I get the finalized result, and I go to a really good band or orchestra or something like that and tell them, hey, this is the song that I wrote. I want you to cover it or play it again, with your talent and your skill, and have a finalized result. So that's where I'm at right now, which is really allowing us to have like full control. I would say, if not 100%, 90 to 95% of, I would say 100%, because if you write a song and your band plays and it's okay, and then a symphony comes, a symphony orchestra, John Williams symphony orchestra comes and plays the same song and they play it amazingly, it doesn't become their song. It's a cover of your song, you still wrote it. The moment that it's not your song is when you just give prompts and it just designs things on its own. I mean, you direct it, but it's not your song. You didn't create anything at that point. Or even if you have a lullaby and it keeps that lullaby but it creates everything else around it, I would say that it's like a 50-50 situation, maybe closer to 60-40. Like your main lullaby is what kind of made everything tying together. Maybe if you give it more weight with regards to that, how important it is, I don't know in musical terms, maybe it's 70% your own and 30% AI. But it's kind of like a collaboration at that point. But it is work that you do at that point because you have put some input into it. Now, if you've made all the instruments yourself and with your voice, and you've actually given a prompt to, out of your voice, every different track have one instrument from it and then place it together, well, that's completely your own. And that's the next level that I want to go with regards to using Suno AI for some of the work. So I've been diving into a lot of different technologies and doing a lot of different stuff with all of these. Currently, the Star Wars video is using Imagine Aurora. That's it, just Imagine Aurora from Grok. It's solely just Imagine Aurora, not even any music or any sounds from Suno AI or any other program. It's all edited in free software, and that's pretty much the final result. It's explicitly that tool. So I'm learning that tool to its limitations and breaking beyond those limitations, figuring out techniques and all that stuff. But recently, these last couple of days, I've been working with other kind of options as well out there, the more advanced, more professional AI options. And honestly, I'm looking at the implications of what can be done with this, and it's pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing, like better consistencies, better details, better prompt understanding. It's just on a whole other level. The end of the day is that it is still a tool, and you still need to you need to know what you're doing, and you need to do a lot of work on your behalf as well. The work that you're going to do, however, is going to be much, much faster regardless. Even if there's a lot of work putting into it, the results, the amount of speed that you're going to get those results, and certain results you won't be able to do them before at all. Like, for example, having like photorealistic actual human facial characters, you need to have actors for that. Just doing it in 3D won't cut it. So there's a lot of restrictions and limitations when it comes to 3D, and AI comes and just blows the lid off of that, and it just gives you a whole different world and different sandbox to play with. But again, you need to know what you're doing in order for it to actually work. I want to drive that point home because the advantages are huge, especially when it comes to rendering. Like the amount of rendering, like I said, that video that I've linked in the description below, it took me like about 1.5 months of render time. It's a long time it's a lot of rendering. Now that video, it could be done, like the rendering times could be cut down to less than a day for that same video. Less than a day, much less than a day. Like it was 2.5 minutes for that video. I think it's about 2.5 minutes, something like that. My Star Wars fan story is already like 7 minutes. So imagine how much time you're actually saving with AI. I want to drive this point home because there's a lot of people that are just like, oh, it's just AI, it's slop, it's this, it's that, it's cutting corners. Well, you're no different than those people that were whining about motion capture back in the day. And then later on we got automated rigging tools. And these are great tools, like I don't want to sit there and waste my time on, the technical side of, the animation, on keyframing all the time. I don't want to sit there and rig my 100th character. And if I have a big scene to do with a lot of different characters that I want to make, now I'm rigging a whole bunch of different characters. I'm never going to get my work done. Okay, so you use the tools that are actually at your disposal in order for you to be able to speed up the process. And that is one of the points that I want to drive home, because I had that kind of opinion myself as well, that it's just AI, they're not really doing anything. And I was like, well, are they not doing anything? It was in one of the videos of Star Wars Theory. He was watching one of the videos of I think it was a Luke and Anakin video that I mentioned before, and that guy was a 3D animator, 3D artist. And I'm like, really? And I was kind of laughing. I was like, okay, so he caved, he went to the dark side. And I was thinking about it, I'm like, yeah, but the result, like, it really touched me, spoke to me on a more emotional level. I'm like, that's pretty cool though. I want in. And that's when I started checking it out myself. I'm like, yeah, you need to know what you're doing. It's kind of like the same example that I gave before with motion capture. Just knowing motion capture doesn't automatically give you the end result. You need to have done all the other stuff beforehand. And if you have technologies that are speeding up your UVW mapping processing of how you actually cut your UV maps, if you get apps or solutions that are speeding up your rigging process, your animating process and all that stuff, what is that ultimately doing? It's freeing up time for you to actually spend on the actual designs and make them even better. So these tools are, again, amazing, and you need to put a lot of work into them, but clearly not as much work as you needed to do before. And that's the beauty of all of this. The budget is much smaller and the work is much faster. Now, with regards to my correlation with directing, all those are kind of like, direct correlations with each other. The negative with AI is that it's kind of like you have an incompetent crew working for you and they don't listen to what the fuck you say. If you look at that video, there's a part on the desert where the hovercraft is coming. You'll notice that it has wings on it. Now, if those of you that didn't notice, now that I said it and mentioned it, you probably go back and be like, oh yeah, it has wings. That craft is not supposed to have wings. I don't know how many generations of that specific shot, and I wanted to stop behind the rocks, and it was doing funky things in every single one of the shots. I got one shot that was great, but it started, like, as it was coming closer, it started growing wings. I've cut it just before you actually see the wings growing, so it looks as if it's normal, it's not changing. Even though I had given 100 million prompts, I had reference shots, like what the craft looks like, what it's from all different angles, and it still couldn't figure it out. That consistency, by the way, is actually a little bit better in the next video that you're going to see with regards to that craft. You'll see certain elements that are much more consistent, because I use it again in the next video. And so I could go back and try that shot again, but honestly, this is meant to be for fun and a learning process and just sharing it. It's not supposed to be perfect, it's just for fun. So I'm not going to go back and redo all those scenes. Like, obviously now I'm assuming that most of those scenes will be even better with the advancements within almost just 2 weeks that the platform already has been able to achieve. The point is that you have like an incompetent crew that just goes ahead and does whatever it wants. Sometimes you tell it, keep the camera steady, and it's moving. You tell it, pan this way, and it pans another way. You tell the actor to do something, and does something else. So you're doing like 50 takes for every single thing. Whereas the positives with regards to 3D animation and actual directing in real life is that you have very specific, orders or directions that you're giving, and the crew follows them. If your camera crew doesn't follow and you tell it, I want you to pan from here to there and finish on this note, and that's the speed that you're going to do it in, and the cameraman starts saying like, well, what if I go this way and do this? Let's see if you like this. He's fired. Okay, your ass is fired in T-minus 10 seconds. Like, you're done. You're out of there. You have a competent crew member that's going to do what you said, and still something went wrong with the actors, or you need, like, it was good enough but it could be better, and you still might do 2 to 10 takes to actually get the perfect shot, but you're doing the same shot over and over again. And the same thing with 3D animation. With 3D animation, it's even more controlled because you actually give the direction, and it's always that specific thing. It's a tangible result, and when you render it, it's always the same. What you need to change after that is, like, when you look at it, you're like, oh, it's a little bit too fast here, it's a little bit too slow here, or the movement's a little bit janky here, and you go back into the 3D and you adjust like your frames, you change some things, you might change the characters, you might do some more keyframe adjustments and animations. Then you go back to test renders. The test renders are low resolution, so you're not sitting rendering for a whole week or a whole month. You can have them ready. Like, there are ways to do test rendering with very low resolutions that you can have your results done in less than half an hour. So you can see the result, test it, and see, okay, let's take notes. On that second, I need to do this change. On that second, I need to do this change. On that frame, I'll do this. On that frame, I'll do that. I noticed that the character is doing something funky here. Oh crap, there's a collision issue here. The foot is going through the ground. I gotta fix that. So you see all those things in real time as well, and try to adjust them. But even then, every take that you're gonna make, which is gonna be longer than just in directing, where you just like cut, action, cut, action. In the 3D animation, you get the fun result, and then you got to go and actually start changing and forming the direction that you're giving. With AI, you don't have that consistency, unfortunately, and you're practically working with an incompetent crew. Last night, I was working on one shot, which is so easy to actually do compared to other things that it's done, and for the love of it could not do the shot. I think I got like 40 to 50 generations with different prompts, similar prompts, trying the same prompts several times. I went back and forth in different references. I changed the reference shot. I added other reference shots. I made so many like adjustments in Photoshop, doing like getting specific assets to put them on the scene, and I tried so many different methods. It would not for the life of it be able to understand, or not understand. I think it understands. It just doesn't know what the fuck I want it to do. It's doing its own thing constantly. That specific shot is a bitch, and if I'm not going to be able to do it, I'm just going to pass by over and just do something else. Change the scene a little bit differently there. I don't know how I'm going to go about it, and just like I want to see if I can actually force it into a very specific result that I want. So you have those kind of issues with AI. So it's not perfect. I'm assuming that a lot of these things are going to over time get better, obviously. But even with those limitations, even with those restrictions, it's still an amazing tool. And I think that if you're not using it as an artist, you're practically doing a disservice to yourself. You're not getting ahead with the times and with the different tools that are actually being given and provided to you. And you could be doing a lot more cool shit right now, instead of bitching and whining like I was, and not touching this kind of side of the field. And that's the beauty of it in the end with regards to AI. Just have some fun with it, you know what I mean? For those of you that want to do it professionally, that's going to go into the second part of this video here. It's already getting long. That I want to talk about. Again, there's a lot to talk about with regards to the implications on the industry itself. So my senses overall is that it is a tool. You still need to do a lot of work, but the advantages far outweigh its disadvantages, and some of these disadvantages are also things that are going to be improved over time. Now, the way that I approach how I want to do this ultimately, because the Star Wars video is pretty much just test footage or me figuring out the technology. I've already done certain tests with other assets and things where I want to feed the program specific things that I've designed, specific 3D characters, specific settings, and use those to actually kind of like pretty much like as if I'm feeding it the scene, and now I'm telling it render that scene. There's other things and directions that I'm going to go into with motion capture with myself, and feed that motion capture into models, and then feed that into AI so I can actually have certain action sequences. Right now, Imagine Aurora sucks hard when it comes to action sequences, and a lot of its movements are too slow. But that slow cinematic feel is a great tool in it as well, which you can use to lean into it to do something else with it. So you use each tool for its strengths and weaknesses. And like I said, I'm already using I'm checking out another 2 to 3 other platforms to see how good they actually are with regards to the results that they can actually get. And honestly, I'm seeing some pretty good results out there. Obviously, my budget's going to have to increase, and I'm going to have to pay more every month for all these things. But at the same time, I can have downtimes and have things that I'm preparing with concepts, references, images. So there's a lot of work that still goes into this. And when I'm ready for the finalized renders, to actually feed them into AI with specific objects, specific characters, specific settings, and at that point, you have a total control of the creation that you do. That part is different to directing, because most directors, they don't sit there and do their own designs. I'm a 3D animator as well, 3D modeler, and digital artist, so a lot of the things that I'm going to be doing in there are going to be my own designs. And now I'm going to jump into an example just so I can show you how much time this can save you. This here is a concept artwork that I had done back in 2016 for that video, for that same world. A similar concept art was used for the character in that video that I have in the description below. The character that I created for that video from a similar concept art took me around about 1 month to make, and that was with, again, like all the restrictions that I was mentioning before, like even the textures that I was designing were in Photoshop. Now look at this character here. It would have taken me with the new technologies probably again about a month, but it would have had much better results, and I would be able to do it with much higher detail. First of all, I would be using ZBrush to actually create crazy details on the character. I'm going to share some videos with ZBrushing at some point, and show you how cool it is and what you can do. Like the amount of level, like it's joining my 3D experience over the years with my digital art experience over the years. I have a digitizer as well, and once you combine those two together, like the results are freaking amazing. Like you get some like real details with regards to like putting a vein on a character, or making like the eyes, like every single like detail is just goes crazy, it goes insane. So I'll be able to make it obviously in a much better detail, but I would still need to rig it. I would still need to make that model. I would then have to make the textures and all that stuff. It probably would still take me maximum about a month to make it, if I'm really if I'm just spending my time doing it, just working on that alone, probably like a week to 2 weeks maybe. If I'm like if I'm in a work environment and I'm not working on something else, because I have my day job and I can't work on all these things all the time. I do this all on my free time. But if I was in a work environment, I was like, you just got to make this character. I think that within 2 weeks I will be able to have it finished. So this concept art here is a tertiary character. It's not even a secondary character. It's a tertiary character. It's unimportant to the story. Like, it's just like, he's canon fodder. And it would, even in the best case scenario, take me about 2 weeks to make it. And with AI, this is the results. Of course, the prompt is very specific, so you can actually make sure that it sticks exactly 100% to the concept art. As you can see, the way the details are from one to the other, they're kept the same. The textures, I gave it very specific prompts as well for how it's going to keep certain textures and how it's going to handle them, and the design itself. If you notice, like, even the silhouette is almost the same. Like the spikes on the shoulders, like everything is 100% the same. The shadowing of the shield is 100% the same. This took me like about less than 5 to 10 minutes to do. Like, you can't compare the two. Even if I was like in my best case scenario 1 week to make it, even if it was 24 hours to make it, if I could make that model in 1 day, which it's been a while since I actually made a model like that, to be honest. Maybe I can do it rather pretty fast, maybe in a couple of days, because now, like, I do work quite a lot faster because I teach this. A lot of the process I've done them over and over again a lot of times, so maybe I could do it faster. But under a day, I definitely wouldn't be able to do it under a day, much less in under 10 minutes. The amount of time that it saves you is insane. And now look at the final result animated. It's done the rigging straight away for me. It's done the animation straight away for me. And it's also done the rendering. The rendering alone for those 6 seconds could take an easy, like, let's just put it like 30 frames per second, 6 seconds. You do the math and you make like each one of those frames to be like maybe 5 minutes, best case scenario, 5-minute renders. It's going to be several hours at minimum to actually get this rendered out. All this in under 10 to 15, maximum 10 to 15 minutes. The prompt, the character, the animation, everything. Maximum 15 minutes. I think it was even less than 10 minutes. The amount of time that you save on things like that is extraordinary. And it's still my design. It's 100% my design. It's based on a concept that I made, and with the prompts that I gave it no margin to allow it to just design and create its own shit. And even the animation itself, if you just do an animation, it starts changing faces, it starts doing whatever the hell it wants. I'm giving specific prompts to keep the shapes as they are, so you can continue down that exact same result and give me that render, that animation, that movement. So it's 100% my own work here. The amount of time that I saved on working on a character like this is extraordinary. Imagine having to do now an entire animation video where I have so many tertiary characters and other assets and things that I want to make, and I'm wasting like even a day on each one of them, which it's not a day, it's much more than that. Like a week at least on each one of them. Imagine how much time it would take me to actually do all of these things and finally make a video, which is kind of the reason why I kind of stepped back from all the 3D things of trying to create my own content with 3D animation, because you need a budget and time for these things. With AI now, you can control it with regards to what you feed it exactly, and it saves you so much time, which means that my main character, which I already have actually in the 3D model 70% complete, my main character, maybe more, 80% complete. My main character, I can spend more time actually, instead of having just a concept artwork, of making a proper 3D work from it. And then I can get that 3D work, and I'm saving time from rigging and animation right away. Again, save time from the things that are mundane and that are repetitive and they're just the technical side of things, and focus your time more on the creative side of things. And even like tertiary characters like this, being able to quickly get them into a scene in moments, in seconds, allows you to spend more time in other elements of your entire creation and ultimately be able to have a creation see the light of day. So the Star Wars film, because it's not my IP, obviously, it's it's just for fun. It's mostly for learning the process, and a lot of the designs and the concepts, besides the main character, a lot of the designs and the concepts are pretty much kind of generated from AI on its own. But other future implementations for more serious work that I want to do of my own, it's going to be much more tight and controlled with specific assets that are going to be fed to it and give it, a direction from those. Which means at that point, for those specific results that I'm going for, you can't just do them with AI. You need to know how to do 3D. You need to know how to do digital art. You need to know your shit. And even then, once you do it, like even the fact that I don't know cameras and stuff like that, and I don't know how, I haven't done directing, it could show in one of the scenes with regards to some of the shots and how they're actually, or even the terminology with regards to how the program might be able to understand certain terminology. I might be saying it wrong because I'm just trying to describe what I want to see sometimes. In certain cases I know what the terminology is, in other cases I don't when I want to have a specific shot. It's in my head, but I don't know how to explain it. Same thing with music. I have a musical ear and I have a lot of ideas that come to me as music, as music, but I can't read music. I can't write music. I can't play music. Hell, I can't even do beatboxing properly. You know what I mean? That doesn't mean that I don't have ideas for it though. And, my limitations is where AI comes into place and it's like, you know what? I hear this lullaby that you're singing. What instrument do you want it in? Oh, I want it in an ancient Greek harp. Great. Here's your result. And it's, it bridges the gap of the things that we don't know how to do that well either. And it also speeds up the entire process. This is going to lead into the segue of the negatives or the impacts on the industry. Now, one of the negatives that I want to talk about is people that are claiming to be artists or musical composers or whatever else through using AI. Even if you say, I am an AI artist, you're not an artist. And let's say, first of all, before I go into that, let's explain what AI can and what AI can't do. AI can be directed and it can echo. That is what AI is. It's an echo. What it can't do, it can't create. Nothing of it is original. There's not one single original bone in its body. It's an echo of everything that exists out there. Now, the work itself, by itself as a design, might be completely original, yeah, but it is still an echo of all the things and all the references that have been fed into it, and it's just creating variations. So the end result does look as if it's original and stuff, but it's not created. It doesn't come from somewhere within. It's not actual new imagery. It's a new result, but it's an echo. It's an echo of everything that already exists. That's one thing that AI doesn't do. It doesn't create things. And even more so, if you're actually using it to fit it with your own designs, then yes, you're an artist. So one of the things that I actually have a gripe with is certain people that are coming out and saying, oh, they all of a sudden became artists through using AI. At the very minimum, you have to give it a sketch. Like say you want to do a specific sword. At the very minimum, you have to give it a sword sketch in order for it to actually be yours. At the very minimum, if you're just giving it prompts. I've heard that excuses. Well, yeah, but do you know the work that you need to go through for the prompts, bro? I've tried it and I've seen it. You can even get an AI to give you specific prompts. You can even have AI itself help you with prompts to actually prompt other AI so you can actually get the results that you want. Don't give me that shit. You're not a fucking artist. That's one of my gripes. It's one of the negatives. People coming out and calling their thing art. And this is bad because people that are not into this and they don't understand this, they won't be able to understand the difference between actual quality and actual creations and just AI slop. Or AI generations, which might not be slop, it might be great, but it's just AI generated. They don't understand the difference and the value between those two, how huge it is. Same thing with composers, you know what I mean? I'm not a composer. Now, I have specific songs and melodies in my mind, but I'm not a composer, I'm not a songwriter, I can't play music. As long as people stay away from that, generated with AI, then we're good. As long as you just mention it and all that stuff. I've noticed that there's a lot more respect from people that actually know the work. That's the funny thing. People like me that actually know 3D work, or people that are actual artists, because they feel it that it's not their work, they say it, they mention it, it's using AI. People that have no fucking clue what they're doing and they're just using AI to make shit, they're the ones that are trying to oversell themselves. That's what I've noticed. It's important to make the distinction between one and the other. Some more negatives with regards to like AI and all that stuff. I think it is the perception that people are going to have with it. Ultimately, a lot of people are not going to understand the work that still goes into doing all this work. And it's just like, oh, it's just AI slop. Okay, well, if it's just AI slop, why don't you do better and why don't you just show us how it's done? The biggest elephant in the room, however, is the jobs. How it's going to affect the industry with regards to jobs. And the fact of the matter is there will be layoffs and there will be much less people working in the industry because of AI. And even the best artists, they're going to need AI and they're going to use AI to actually need to propel it forward, their work, and to actually amplify their work in order for them to stay in the business. Which means ultimately that for them it's good news, those that make it. Why? Because now instead of working for one client, in that same amount of time you're working for 5 clients. That means ultimately that 4 other positions are no longer available for other artists. So it is going to create those kind of issues. Like a company will not have 100 concept artists, it will have 5 concept artists, and those 5 concept artists will be feeding their concept artworks into AI and getting variations or different results. Well, they'll just do like a sketch and then they'll get the AI to color it in, and so on and so forth. So it's speeding up the process even for the artists themselves, which means that ultimately a lot of jobs, there are going to be a lot of layoffs, and it is going to affect the industry. That is a huge negative. It is a huge bad. A lot of people are going to lose their job that are already in the industry. But even more so, a bigger number of people that haven't really even made it and they're trying to make it into the industry, their opportunities are now dwindled even more. Unless if you use AI as well and possibly allow you to push yourself up into that that workspace. However, ultimately, because there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be using AI as well, again, the amount of availability of jobs is going to reduce. So I see this going 2 ways. First of all, do I think that this is even a bad thing? If I'm going to be honest with you, there's a reason why they say that artists are if you want to get hungry, or if you want to not make money, become an artist, because there's not much money in art. Being an artist, let's be honest. Before AI, your issue was not, and your problem was not AI all this time. It was the actual industry itself, that it's not one of those industries that you can really do much in it, and it's very hard to make it happen as a freelancer. My sense is, what I come to as a result is, if you want to be an artist, my personal opinion, don't do it for the money. I think that ultimately it's a good thing. It's a good thing. Why? Well, it could be bad things. Well, I'll explain the reason why. The good thing, those people that have said that now they're doing 5 clients because they're really great and they're the top of the top, and they're doing 5 clients instead of 1. Now they have more clients that they're working on, which means that now they can finally make a living off of this. That's the positive of this. The negative is, if everybody starts using AI and reaches the same level of you, we're back to where we are right now. Everybody's going to be doing the same shit. Again, such a saturated market, and everybody's going to be making scraps from this whole industry. It's a fucked up industry overall, and I think that the industry has an issue and a problem with it to begin with, and the problem is you and me and whoever goes down this path, because I've been there, done that, and I was like, I'm going to make money from this and all that stuff, and it started blocking my creativity. I would argue that working for clients, and this is my stance on it after 15, 16 years of experience of working for clients and working for a lot of different projects, it kills creativity. My recommendation is, don't enter this industry and this field at all for business, for making money. Do it as a hobby. This way, first of all, you're going to enjoy it much more. You're going to start doing the comparisons. You're going to stop getting angry over the fact that you're not making money from it. You're going to stop being resentful. It's going to elevate your art at that point, and it's not going to make it a situation and process that you're not having fun with it. And when you are working for clients, after a point, you're going to start realizing, I'm just doing, you don't think every single client is amazing. Like, from the so many clients that I've worked with, like only 2-3 had great projects, and maybe 4 that had cool projects that I could, that I was really that looked great and I had fun enjoying designing. The rest, I was doing some stupid waste of time jobs. Waste of time. What kind of inspiration can I feel from that? You know what I mean? You're gonna get a lot of those jobs, and you're gonna say yes. Whoever comes up to you and says, I'm gonna pay you the money that you're asking for, you're gonna say yes. Unless you reach the point where you actually make it and you're famous, you have a lot of great art and all stuff, and everybody's coming to you, then you can be choosy and picky and be like, no, I'm going to do just the things that are creative and the things that I feel are great for me. Until you reach that point, you pretty much fucked yourself over, though. And you might never make it, no matter how much talent you have, because again, the competition is huge and everybody's doing the same thing. So I don't recommend you stop your art. I just recommend you redirect it. Have a day job, any job. It helps to have a job that is actually irrelevant with the field as well, that allows you to be able to have your creativity, to express your creativity, and not waste your creativity on clients and doing that stuff. Like when I was doing client work, I was not in the mood to work on my shit afterwards. I had no energy for it. Now, because when I do when I educate, when I do teaching, when I teach classes and seminars, basically because I'm doing the same thing over and over again, it's nothing really creative for me. It's very technical. So if anything, it actually, because I'm like constantly seeing it, I'm like, I want to do this, and that, it's actually making me want to do something creative. And the second job, I do 2 jobs, is pretty much it's completely relevant it's not in the house, it's completely relevant with the field. And while I'm at that job, it's actually because I'm away from all this, and because it's a completely different thing, it's basically a job that balances me out as a person. So it can be something that's like, it's like a completely different mirror image of what I do, with on the digital side. And believe me, when I come home from that job, I have much more inspiration to want to work on something on my own. And I'll give you another example so you can actually see and understand what I'm saying. If you've noticed, some of the most content hobbyists out there are Warhammer 40k fans. They get their little miniatures and they paint them and they work on their little miniatures and all that stuff. Why are they so content? Because they're not doing it for money. They're not comparing. They're not competing. It's not a burden on them. They're not, trying to make money of something. Not making money of it is frustrating. So they're not getting rid of the frustration. They're just expressing themselves and they're having fun. And because they're having fun and they're expressing themselves, what is the end result? Better paints, better models, and they slowly improve, and it looks cool, and they're enjoying it. Once you start focusing on your art just for yourself, your art itself is going to improve, first of all. Your art itself. So my recommendation is, don't give up on your art. Continue working on it. It's a personal, deep expression of your own soul. You need to do it. I think that you have an obligation to, keep working on your art in perpetuity, as long as you live. I think that it's something that you should be doing all the time. However, get out of the mindset of making money from it. Do it for yourself. And honestly, this could help you, first of all, enjoy the process much more. And second of all, there's a lot of artwork that I've done that I don't even share, because that's not the point for me. I want to do it for me and just enjoy it. Like I said at the beginning of this video, unless it's something that's finalized, usually I don't share anyway. But generally I do it for myself, so I can actually enjoy it. It's an expression of me. First of all, you're going to enjoy yourself more. And second of all, it's going to improve, because you're enjoying yourself, it's going to improve your art, and you're going to try different things and all that stuff. And then at some point, before you know it, a collection of art that you have done could be used in a calendar that somebody saw online because you uploaded stuff, and they're like, hey, I want to work with you and make this calendar, and then you make money off it, and you're like, hey, that's cool, I'm not doing this for the money, I have my day job and I'm making money. When I come home, I chill out with either, some gaming or some films or with the kids or whatever else it is, or I'll be painting. I might be doing, a painting or digital art, or I might be painting miniatures. So I'm involved in that whole situation. I'm having fun with it. And somebody saw those images and they said, we'll make a calendar of it. And now they're selling it in shops all over the world. And then I see the calendar, I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. And then I buy that calendar, and now you live in my workspace. You're part of my life. And it's not your focus. It's for you to feed mouths. But that creation that you did, because you elevated yourself and you just expressed yourself, could have been so beautiful and so inspirational that I saw it. I'm like, that's a beautiful calendar. And now it's in my living room or my kitchen or in my workspace, my workspace. And guess what? You have now transcended, and you have come into my actual life, and you're living next to me on my wall. You're not going to get there if you're constantly, trying to make this as a business. I believe. Even if you have talent, because there's a lot of things that go into this beyond talent, being in the right place at the right time and all that stuff. So ultimately, when I think about, okay, a lot of jobs are going to be, there's going to be a lot of layoffs and stuff, I'm thinking to myself, is it really a bad thing? It's a saturated market that everybody that has talent, by the way, can't even fucking make it, because it's oversaturated with people all over the place. Oversaturated. And then you have global industries. I'll give you an example. Like in the East, they get paid dirt cheap. I've worked on platforms with clients and all that stuff where I couldn't compete money-wise because I had to drop my price so low, because there were other teams with 5-10 people working on the same project that I'm going to work on, and they're getting paid less overall. I'm thinking to myself, how do you live? Well, I guess the prices there are very cheap for life. The cost of life there is very cheap. So you have 5 people working on the same project that I'm working on, and even the results at the end, I was looking at them, it's not that great. I could do better. But the amount of turnover time that they have, how fast they actually did it, I wouldn't be able to have better results and faster and cheaper. So I'm going to be slower, better results, yes, but slower and more expensive. It's kind of like screwing up the triangle of the balance. And you're like, how do you compete with that? Well, I'll drop my prices, or you know what I mean? Like it's a saturated market where even people that can do more than others are still struggling. And honestly, I feel so liberated ever since I stopped chasing down this rabbit hole, chasing down this carrot of trying to make this something that I make money off. I'm cool with it. I'm going to, make money from my day job, and in my free time, work on the things that I want to work on and just enjoy it and have fun with it. That's my approach. And if something good comes from it in the end, then I'm all for it. At which point, if your complaint is to also back up to what I said before, it's already an industry that's pretty hard. If you're complaining about AI at this point, you weren't an artist to begin with, or you hadn't made it to begin with. And a real artist at this point will, if they really want to make it, they will utilize this tool to actually help them become even better. The people that are actually going to value handcrafted, hand-drawn, hand-painted, artwork, they're going to pay for it, bro. And it doesn't have to be your day job. It doesn't have to be your primary income. Let's just say someone has done some great concept art, some great artworks, like of sci-fi armors and characters. Like, if I'm being honest with you, I don't share work like that because I don't give a shit. Who gives a shit about me just doing another concept, another great sci-fi character? And you as well, sharing your sci-fi image, for the 100th time. Who gives a shit? I don't give a shit. It's unimportant. It's just more generic shit to fill up the entire spectrum of all this saturated content that's out there. If anything, you're the one that's training AI all this time. I'm going to be honest with you. This is something you should be doing on your hobby, just enjoying and expressing it and sharing those images. It's good for you to share them, but in terms of for me to pay for it, that's where the question comes into to who gives a shit? Why would I pay for it? There's thousands of it like that. Why would I give a shit? And your design might be a million times better than Darth Vader, right? And you look at it and you're like, oh, this is so much higher quality work. Just looking at it objectively too, between each other. Even the design might be better, the quality, everything. And you look at Darth Vader and you're like, yeah, it's shit compared to what you just drew. But here's the thing. When I see your image, I'm like, okay, yeah, whatever, another fucking random character, whatever. And then I look at Darth Vader, I'm like, oh, that's Darth Vader. I give a shit. Why? Because it's not the artwork, it's not the design that's resonating. It's the character. It's Anakin Skywalker. There's a story there. There's a lore. There's something that goes behind it. So if you really are a creative person, why don't you take advantage of AI and be like, you know what? Okay, motherfuckers, you took my work all this time and you fed your AI algorithms. Okay, now I'm going to take your AI and I'm going to get these images that I've done and I'm going to pose them in a lot of different poses and in a lot of different situations with a lot of different backgrounds, very fast and very easy. And I'm going to use all those 100 characters so I can actually create a universe of my own. And boom, I'm throwing speech bubbles all over the place and I've got a comic now. I can go one step further and animate them and make little short animations. I can create characters, I can create stories. And then I stumble across it on YouTube and I see it, I'm like, oh, what's this about? And I check the story out, and by the end of that 3, 4, 5 minute clip, I'm like, hey, that was pretty cool, man, that was fun. Now I see your character, a month later, I see your character, and instead of being like, yeah, just another random generic character, I see it, I'm like, oh, I remember this, that's from that, that animation that I saw. It was pretty cool, it had a nice thing, and the themes were that and that. I liked it, it had nice action in it, or, it had a nice, theme, or it was very retrospective, like his internal monologue that he had in certain situations he was going through, or I like this or that. Oh, he's created an entire world. Oh, it's not just 100, random, generic, sloppy shit all over the place that I've seen thousands of. It's an entire universe that's created. There's stories, and there's characters, interactions. There's something that's going on here. Now I remember your character. Now I give a shit. So why don't you use AI to do something like that? It all comes down to how we actually take advantage of the tools that are in front of us. It is a very saturated market already. It's always been an issue with artists. And now, if everybody learns the tools, by the way, it's going to be the same saturation. It's the same shit. It's going to be the same thing in the end. The AI on itself is not going to be able to do all this stuff. And believe me, it's probably going to cut some jobs out because there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be like, you know what, I can just, make my own prompt. I don't need to pay for an artist to do this, make my own prompt. Yeah, but if you want professional grade results, you're going to turn around and realize, it's not doing what I want to do, man. How are all those people getting all those other results? And the artist is going to be like, yeah, well, pay me and I'll show you. So it's still going to be kind of the same thing in the end, unless we go to that point of time where 5-10 years time from now, where you just tell it something and it does exactly what's in your mind. Well, when we reach that point, it's going to be a completely different story. So ultimately, it is going to affect the industry. It already is affecting the industry, but to a certain degree, I don't know how bad this is. So yes, there are negatives with regards to the industry, but I think that the positives far outweigh the negatives. They far outweigh the negatives. That's my overall kind of thought. I think I'm close to an hour or over an hour already with this video, but honestly, this is a huge deep dive and it's a very important subject and topic, and there was a lot to say on this. I want to talk about the process, understanding AI, what it can, what it can't do, what its extension is, and ultimately also the issues and the problems with it, and also shed some light on those negatives. Because we're going too much into this with the negativity, myself included. I'm not just talking about other people, myself included. I had to experience it to actually see it in a different in a different light, sorry. I had to actually experience it to see it in a different light, okay? And as soon as I had that experience, the entire approach that I have on this has changed. And I hope that this mindset or this deep dive has helped you also kind of like get a different perspective and a more, overall kind of like idea and understanding of AI, how it can be used, what the advantages are, what the negatives are, and ultimately, as I said before, I think that the positives far outweigh the negatives. This can change in the future, but as of now, right now, we're in early 2026. This is the situation that we're in, and I think it's going to be many years before it actually becomes drastically to the point that no artist will be able to work as an artist. I think by the time we reach that point, it's going to be quite a while. And even if it does reach that point, we'll see how we adapt and we go from there on. Again, art should not be done for work, period. So even if we reach that point, if you're already just doing art for yourself from now, you're just going to continue doing art for yourself even then. Just like painting miniatures for Warhammer. By the way, I keep pointing in that direction because I have some miniatures, and those are videos for some other time. You're going to keep painting miniatures and you don't care what's happening in the world. It's not for job, it's your hobby. You're just sitting there painting Warhammer 40k miniatures. And once you're bored of doing Warhammer 40k miniatures, you go into other miniatures. I'm going to have another 2 videos out that are actually going to dive into, like I said at the beginning of this video, into some other directions with regards to AI, not so much in the workforce. Check those out as well if you're interested. I hope you enjoyed this video, and until the next time, peace be with you.